Hey, hello and welcome to another episode of Earthworks Hub, where we talk everything earthworks. I'm your host, Ivan Orlovic from Eagle One Industries, and with me today I've got a special guest, Shaun Pollard from Melbourne Tractors. Just a quick brief on that. I bought my first excavator from Melbourne Tractors. Actually, it was from their Ballarat branch, and this is going back maybe 11 years ago now. It was an SK210, a 21-ton excavator, and then since that time, I've had a strong relationship with these guys. Bought multiple machinery from them. They've helped me out with sales, servicing, warranty, insurance, anything like that. They've helped me with that, finance. So we've definitely built a good relationship over all the years. And they're a sponsor of this show. So thank you very much to Melbourne Tractors. And then I was sort of thinking how to break this episode up. I think we might break it up into three parts. One, I'll first talk to Shaun, I suppose, about himself. The second one about Melbourne Tractors as a company, and then the third one about the equipment they sell. So thank you. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ivan. Obviously our relationship predates me starting with Melbourne Tractors, but look, it's good to listen to these podcasts and the different people you're getting on, and hopefully today is a little bit different with a salesperson as opposed to the guys that you have operating and that as well. So maybe the customers that you're dealing with or we deal with, and the operators can get a different insight into what our life's a bit like within the industry.
That's so true. So like I was saying, we'll start with a bit of info on yourself. Can you tell us what you do at Melbourne Tractors and how you sort of got into the industry?
Yeah, so I started with Melbourne Tractors back in 2014, having spent probably 9 years prior to that with Digger Australia, who are a local earth-moving attachment manufacturer. And I'd had a pretty good relationship with the team at Melbourne Tractors. They were our biggest customer at the time. We dealt with OEMs fairly exclusively when I was at Digger. You still dealt with a portion of the direct market, but a lot of stuff was pushed back through your OEM, your manufacturers, because they're the ones that are bundling things together. Really good company to work for back at Digger, where I started to get into the industry. And I got that job through a friend of mine. And I just started in sales administration. Got to learn the product as far as what we sold. And then you start learning about the equipment in the industry that it bolts onto, and excavators and skid steers and backhoe loaders and things that have evolved today with track loaders and things like that. I worked my way through Digger in the duration of time I'd been there to become a sales rep and start selling the equipment externally and build those relationships with our OEMs, which is something that was driven through the company there. It's you build those relationships through the OEMs. You're selling to them as a large scale client, and just ensuring that you're meeting their needs, making them aware of the products that are coming out and things like that. And I finished up there sort of running the branch here in Victoria. So as their branch manager for about 4 years. And then, sort of made a change across to something a bit different, which has been a really good change for me, working with Melbourne Tractors, a family-owned business, which was, again, Digger essentially have the roots of a family-owned business. And the two businesses are actually fairly similar as far as establishing. I think Digger was 1981 and Melbourne Tractors is 1983. So we just celebrated our 40th anniversary a couple of weeks ago, or this year as well. And it's good to work for family-owned and operated businesses. Sometimes you can sort of get caught up in some of the corporate side of companies, and things can become a bit difficult, and you've got to jump through hoops. And whilst certain things are important in business, I think the foundations of keeping things pretty simple are what helps our business grow really well. Look, I haven't looked back since I started up at Melbourne Tractors. As I said, back in 2014. I'll be here 10 years next year. I still get people ringing me and saying, "Oh, you're still there." Where I don't know what they expect. Sometimes they're probably used to salesmen rotating phone numbers every 2 or 3 years, but a lot of our key staff have been here for a long time. On probably, midterm, there's some guys that have been there 20, 25 years. There's some staff that have been there nearly touching 40 years. So I think that's a great, highlight on the company and reflection of the company, and people that do work for the company, and they're invested into that as well. So it's been good. It's the diversity of going into a role, I guess, away from managing people. Was probably something I would prefer to do, and building relationships with my clients, direct and one-on-one, the likes of yourself, and that, you don't always have to sell someone a machine to build that relationship. It's obviously important. It helps you get there in the end, but there's obviously clients that sometimes we can't fill their needs for a particular machine or a particular reason where, it's not a matter of we don't talk to them anymore. We still talk to them, as well. So you're probably no different to that. You've sort of downsized your business away, and we've actually helped you in, as you said, in a few ways where Melbourne Tractors have been a little bit flexible to assist in situations where you had a requirement for a machine that you had no operator for, and we're able to help you, move that on. So not only can we sell you an excavator, but we can also offer assistance if you needed to try and find you to rehouse an excavator. And that's actually something that, in the last sort of 12 months from time to time has sort of come up.
If that's true, you offer a lot more than just sales,
Yeah.
And we'll probably touch on that a bit more as we talk about the company as well. But I was going to ask you about what sort of challenges you have, and one of them, I suppose, would have been COVID. How did you guys go through the COVID period?
As a business, and as I think most people in earth moving, initially we thought the handbrakes were going to get pulled up. It was a bit of an unknown. We didn't know what was happening, and to be honest, you talk to customers, back then and even now, and for the first 4, 5 or 6 weeks, people were working pretty frantically to try and continue working, get as much done as they could in case, we obviously went into these lockdowns and how that affected us. But we thrived. Because our customers did, for no other reason that our customers were thriving. Obviously, that was through the industry, so did we. The government obviously put some incentives in place that assisted people purchasing assets and things like that, where they could immediately write off their assets. But in that sense, as far as business went, it was strong as far as demand for equipment. We obviously saw towards the back end of COVID, the demand for used equipment was extremely insane, to the level we'd never seen it before. So with those challenges, that was because sometimes you found new machine supply was quite a challenge, and with some of the brands we dealt with, pricing became a challenge. Depending on where equipment was coming from, and the global impact on exchange rates and diesel, as we saw locally here, and transporting equipment from overseas. Energy costs and stuff like that. So there's definitely some certain challenges there from a cost point of view with machines coming into the country. As I said, as a sales point of view, we thrive, but we're still dealing with some of our products with some large back orders, and probably the biggest one that affected us was our ASV Posi-Track loaders. There was just such a demand from them, and that demand continued to grow, and people continued to order them, even though the lead times blew out to 12 months. They blew out to 2 years. There was still a huge demand for clients to add to their fleet because of the work they were doing. So that side of things was a fairly big challenge for us. Kobelco seemed to prep themselves fairly well. We did see some shortages of supply on some equipment, but our lead times on them didn't get blown out too bad. So, we sort of benefited from that. We're still continuing as a business to grow year on year. Our role was pretty challenging though. Like my role is a retail role. So become lockdown, we were working from home. So that side of things, from a personal side of things, was a real challenge. And I'd obviously never like to go back to that. It was a really unique situation to find ourselves in, to work from home, which you do get some benefits of working from home, but I think the downfall of that was that, obviously we're homeschooling our kids and trying to do the best we could in an environment that was really challenging and as demanding as it was. And my phone's ringing, you're trying to balance your kids here and your job there. It was a bit challenging, a bit overwhelming at times, to be honest. And we all sort of went through that in different ways and stuff like that. So, the kicker to that might have been we sort of got to share some time with my young family, where I got to see my youngest bloke lose his tooth, and a few little things along the way that if I was at work, I probably wouldn't have been near or around that, when certain things happened as well. So you try and take the positive out of things, but looking back at what we went through in that side of things from a personal role was quite challenging. Our mechanics, our parts guys, guys in the admin, they continue to go to the office. But as our role being a retail role was, a bit challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're right. We're probably quite lucky that a lot of us in the construction industry could keep working because I think we're one of the minority that we're allowed to keep working. So, um,
Yeah, there is, and look, even selling equipment through that period was very different to what we'd been through previously. You would sell machines sight unseen to customers. You know, obviously new machines. It's a new machine, so that's generally straightforward. But you didn't get that chance to probably go and see that client and do what we do and what we pride ourselves on as far as going out and seeing the client to ensure that deal was done face to face. And then even handing over the machine, we were restricted from sort of doing that in some capacity. But as I said, used equipment, a lot of stuff was just basically, I sold machines via texting. You know, I sold machines via a phone call, and you'd meet the client for the first time when you may be delivering the machine, or post that when you might have been delivering some parts. So as you said, you were extremely busy, and you know the only reason that we became extremely busy because the industry as a whole was busy, and civil construction I think benefited because they did open up a lot more jobs based on things being closed, especially in sort of metropolitan Melbourne. Less volume of cars and people on the roads, so they could sort of get a few of those projects done whilst there was limited people out and about.
yeah. Just going back to you were talking about sales and stuff. How has technology changed the sales role for you? Like now, people are obviously getting more attachments and technology on their machines. So like GPSs, machine control. That has that sort of. I suppose that would have made you have to learn about all that stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Understanding where the market's going, what people are wanting, what tools are out there to make their jobs easier is something that we've got to try and stay pretty attuned with. There's not always sort of one brand with that sort of stuff as well. So you've got different clients and different needs from different brands of some of that technology as well. So we sort of lean on our local suppliers for that sort of gear when we want to understand what they offer and what they do. It's all also dictated by the sites that clients are working on now and where that demand. We are seeing a growth for that GPS. We are seeing growth probably in the last 4 years for more clients buying a machine with a tilt hitch, more so than ever before. So we're starting to talk to clients now about tilt rotators through all the different brands that are offered through that as well. We've supplied a few of them now in this calendar year. We supplied a couple last year, so the growth is there. We're now seeing, and I was talking to a client the other day about innovations that are coming into the hitch manufacturers where they got I think they sort of call them oilless connections for their attachments. So quick oil connections inside the quick hitch, which is a big safety thing for people on site. People aren't having to get out of the machine, and especially on big machines, take out their spanners and take hoses on and off. So I think that space in the next few years is going to become quite big. We're already hearing that through some of the major hitch manufacturers that we deal with. They are looking at doing that oilless connection, hoseless connection as well. And it is something that we're sort of keeping in tune with because it's only going to offer benefits to the clients on site, increased productivity, and as I said, an improvement in potential safety there as well without people getting on and off machines and walking around and sort of doing bits and pieces there as well. So, a few of the brands that we sort of deal with, there's a few brands out there, say, when we look at excavators now bringing in technology pre-built into their machines. Our biggest excavator that we deal with, Kobelco, as a manufacturer, have decided not to do that, and we believe it's a really good option not to do that for a few reasons. One, cost. Yeah, you're paying for that within the machine build anyway. Yeah, you might get some sort of saving on it because it's factory fitted, but if we can bring in a machine to the spec that we need without that GPS and the client doesn't need that, well, obviously that client's offered the machine at that price. If the client has a fleet of machines where he likes to, use brand X GPS system, if we're bringing it with the opposite brand, that becomes a bit of a challenge. And probably ultimately, again, we've got the relationships with the manufacturers here on the ground. So, whoever they are, we can ensure that we're coupled and team with them. They're fitting the equipment into our machines in our workshop. And then the after sales and support is done locally here in Australia. If it's done sort of overseas and something goes where it's actually an overseas sensor, because, with Kobelco excavators built out of Japan, they also service and supply to Europe and America and things like that. So if we had a sensor that was more to the American market than the Australian market, well, then we've got some issues and constraints in being able to sort of support that as a brand Kobelco as opposed to the brand of the GPS supplier. So We do get asked that a lot. We do have the factory option, and we've worked with some major brands over there, but we can sort of have all the brackets and bits and pieces ready to go. Again, talking about some of the other hitch manufacturers, they're now building their hitches to have the GPS sensor brackets to be put straight into them. So effectively, everything's being delivered ready for the GPS guys to come in, put their brackets on, wire it in, and away you go. So it's definitely a big part of the industry going into GPS.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about the company and the history of Melbourne Tractors?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My father-in-law asks me every time I see him how many tractors I sell, and I've been here nearly 10 years and I haven't sold one. So it's it's a funny situation. I work for a tractor named company, and obviously we've evolved into a construction brand very strong these days. So the origin of the company obviously comes from ag days. Ford, New Holland, back in the day when it started up, and that was a big part of the business. And things like tractors and ag equipment, backhoes were quite big. And then eventually, probably 25 years ago, things like the New Holland skid steers came out, and we're still dealing with generational customers that are coming back and are loyal to both Melbourne Tractors, but the product that they've sort of seen and dealt with first with New Holland. New Holland sort of reflects a bit of like our business. They've put in a construction line to complement their big ag line, and our business has done the same thing. So metropolitan-wise now, Victoria-wide, should I say, we've got 4 branches. So we've got our head office at Somerton, which is mainly construction. We don't deal with ag through the metropolitan area anymore. That's done through the sort of satellite branches of, say, New Holland now that do the ag stuff. We've got our southeast branch over in Dandenong, which again is strong with our construction line. We've got our Ballarat Tractors Yard, which is our heart of where our agriculture is still kept and maintained, and a big part of our business. And they service that sort of western region heavily with our ag product, New Holland, and have also grown that belt of construction through all the brands that we deal with. We've got a branch down in Terang, which is heavily ag, but there's also some options of construction creeping in there. But obviously having a heartland out there to support that New Holland brand in the ag side of things has been big for us. So through those sort of 4 branches, we employ roughly 70 people here in Victoria, across sales, admin, service, technical support, various roles to administer our business and assist our customers when machines have gone into service or whatever it might be. We obviously, if you don't know, Brisvegas is also a sister company to us up in Brisbane, servicing sort of South East Land and the sort of top part of New South Wales. So there's about 40 staff up there, and they've got the one branch at the moment. They're more heavily construction based. With the brands that they deal with, and they're doing a great job. I don't know the timeline on it, but it might have been sort of 4 or 5 years ago they took over the Kobelco brand up there, and that product's really grown through Brisbane and what the guys have done up there through their heartland, and probably no different to the template that Melbourne have been able to grow on with the Melbourne Tractors business. If I sort of backtrack to Melbourne, Kobelco originated with Ken bringing in imports. Okay, so the Kobelco for us was just imported low-hour machines that were being brought in. There was a Kobelco dealer here in Melbourne that was sort of servicing all of Australia. They'd bring in the machines from the factory, and they would supply them to the country. And then I think Kobelco saw real growth for Australia, for their product, for their brand, and they really needed to bring that in at a top profile level, if you know what I mean, and introduce their own office here in Australia. So that's when Kobelco Australia got introduced, and I'd say that was sort of roughly 12, 13 years ago, something like that. And they restructured their distribution network, and the likes of Melbourne Tractors became the authorised dealer for new Kobelco excavators. Other brands that we deal with as well. So we do Kobelco, as I said. We do the ASV Posi track loaders, which again, they've probably been doing them for 20 years. A big product for us that's grown significantly. Australia is probably the biggest seller for ASV track loaders globally, and has been for a long time. The states are seem to be very passionate about their cat machines, and ASV's only been a growing product for them, so it's gotten a lot bigger over there. But we also deal with, as I said, New Holland construction. We deal with Merlot telehandlers now, which we've been doing for about 4 years. Is a really good, strong, growing product for us. And recently we've just taken over Divino dump trucks, and CNF mini dumpers. So we look to complement, new equipment within our range that will help our clients that we're already dealing with, but also maybe get us to establish some clients in markets where we might not already be at the moment with some other products. And look, the business is pretty strong in reinvesting into their own business. So we also manufacture our own attachments and buckets, and mainly for our excavator range, we've got our Ken-built attachment range and MSB hammers. So Ken's been doing the MSB stuff for as long as I've been with the company, so probably somewhere between 10 to 15 years, and heavily looking at, as I said, our own attachments, and the Ken-built ones are the ones that we now bring in. And, we're trying to ensure that we've got quality attachments at a cost-effective price, so we can bundle up a whole package for our clients and make supply pretty quick. As we saw in the last few years, sometimes we've had supply constraints with equipment, and there's no point having your machines out there if you can't have your attachments to go on and get them out at the same time. So the likes of the company that I used to work with, Digger, Norm Engineering, there's a number of other ones that we're also preferred suppliers for, and we buy in and stock their gear so that we've got parts available for customers, again, depending on whether they need them from a quick turnaround time and stuff as well. So it's a pretty diverse business. It's a fairly big scale. There's a big turnover there, and I'm fortunate that I basically I sell any sort of those items within my territory, including used equipment. We sort of touched on that before. I'm responsible for sales inquiries in my territory, and we've got 6 other sales guys here in Victoria who do an identical job. And basically, if you need something, you can ring us. We can be a one-stop shop. My approach on things, which I think is sort of mirrored from the top, is that we want clients ringing us and looking for solutions, and if we don't have the answer, or if we don't have that product, we'll let them know. We can make a few phone calls and see what we can do, or if it comes to the point we can't actually assist them directly, we try and provide some assistance or a number for where they could go. So I think that goes a long way, again, in building that relationship with our customers.
Yeah, no, that's true. And in my situations, you've helped me out with finance, all the servicing and that. So yeah, you offer a lot more than just sales. Yeah, actually, I've got something to show everyone. I just thought about this. When I do my live, I do some lives on TikTok, and people often ask me to show them what my models are in the background, and I'll just show the type of after sales I get. This is when I bought my 14-tonner. Shaun actually organised a model for me to be sent out as a bit of a post-sales thing, and he's actually printed Eagle One Industries on there. So that's the effort that you go to. So good skills there. But yeah, a lot of people ask me about these models in the background. So
they're awesome. You see, when you walk into businesses and you do see some of their little setups inside, and there's a lot of people that get truck models and excavator models, and we get asked for a lot for them. And I don't think they're building as much as they used to. So it's actually something I should look more into, because it's something that's in high demand, and people are pretty proud about that. And something you touch on there, it's really funny. You go and deliver a machine to a client, whether it's a 15-ton excavator, and the first thing they're looking for, and they're probably more excited for, is maybe that sort of marketing package, or that excavator that we might give them, or a jacket we might give them, or the hat. So we can't go empty-handed to site when we're doing our handover sometimes. Otherwise, the clients are disappointed before we even get there.
Yeah, it's funny how you say that, because even when I used to have operators and that, they used to all say to me when I bought a machine, "Oh, where's our jackets? Where's our hats?" So everyone's expecting something straight away.
Yeah.
So they're more excited about that than the actual machine. And what about so you guys you don't do rentals at the moment, do you?
No, we don't. Not here in Victoria. So that's really it'll really be a different sub business to us. Really, like the resources that we have in place now, we just don't have them to be able to sustain something like that. Kane up in Brisbane has implemented that up into the business up there. Probably more in the sense that it's assisted them to drive their sales. They wanted to use that as an establishment for that brand up there. People into Kobelcos, more people you get into Kobelcos, that word flows, and people then, if they're hiring machines, they tend to hire and then buy the machine that they've been renting or hiring. We've probably been a bit more cautious down here for a number of reasons. One is not to step on the toes of our existing clients as well. It's a bit of a delicate one that if you go into rental, you're sometimes almost competing against some of those clients that we've got as well. A lot of the major brands down here do have their own hire high business, obviously Cat Rental do, Hitachi have their own setup, Komatsu, you can go through a number of them, pretty much they all do, but it is something that we, if we were going to do it, you've got to have the resources and infrastructure right. But we've sort of found our growth is with a lot of the clients, I think, uniquely down here in Melbourne, we've been different to how Brisbane have progressed their growth. Our growth has been done sort of naturally through a lot of the big civil guys that we've had, and we've had a lot of their subbies branch off and buy our Kobelcos and, continue to work back for those clients. Who did you use to sub before on your 210?
It depends. Yeah, when I had that, I worked for Winslow, Simon Brothers, a few of those other bigger civil companies.
Yeah, I thought, so Simon Brothers are a classic one for us that, I can count how many guys, have built their first or bought their first excavator off us based on being, someone on Simon Brothers sites. And I think I recall that as well. So, that only helps us, continue to grow our brand with other people. And, we always say to clients, one of the things I say to clients when I've delivered a machine is if anyone asks about the excavator or about Melbourne Tractors, just please be honest with them, but please hand our number. And I think that's, again, something that's been, really positive for our business. Nothing's ever going to be, trouble-free or non-problematic or whatever. You're going to come across things, whether it's, something related to the machine or something related to, on-site difficulties, as we're seeing at the moment with some of the vandalism and bits and pieces going on site. But we've got to be there to try and assist and support that where we can.
Okay, so what about expos and things like that? Do you attend any of those expos and things that around Australia?
Since sort of COVID or even pre-COVID, again, I think people are shopping online. Our presence online, brand presence online, your ability to go and do your research now is not really like it used to be going to a field day. People still go there. We didn't go to Elmore. Not Elmore. Elmore recently. Sorry, there's Henty and then Elmore. We didn't go to Elmore. There was a few OEMs that didn't go there like us ourselves, and it's a bit of a challenge, that one now too. So we're probably more selective with that, or the discussions that we're sort of having also about probably more direct doing a show that's based around exclusively Melbourne Tractors doing something. If you know what I mean. Hey, we're going to do a show based on our products and come and do an open day or something like that. So. Where 4 or 5 years ago we used to attend selected shows, not as many. The ag guys do, but the construction side of things seems to be a lot different now. And I think that's driven by our client base, again, as I said, doing their research. By the time they generally are talking to us, they've already done some background research with the bits and pieces. They're just finding out, the machine availability, maybe what's unique with our machine compared to another machine based off what they may not know and they've seen online. Field days, I think they're sort of a dying trade. So I think we'll still go to a few in the future, but we're probably more selective about the ones that we'll go to. And if we've got a new product, that's the thing. If you're going to the same show 3 or 4 years in a row, you're bringing the same product. What are you offering different outside of your presence? That's probably the only thing you're offering, isn't it? So, I think sometimes return for investment on those trade shows aren't as great as what they used to be, and that's why people used to go to them. We still bring some construction gear more to those sort of ag sort of combo construction shows. There was one down in Gippsland earlier this year. I think we might have sold a couple of machines off that. But the reality is you want to go to those machines to sell a machine to someone you've never dealt with, you've never seen. And the machines we probably sold down in Gippsland there were guys that we had been talking to. So I think that's how you got to judge whether they're worthwhile us going to, because it's also a big cost resource-wise as well as, transport-wise and logistics and stuff like that. To have your sales guys out of the office and a few things like that, it can be a bit of a challenge because, things are still really busy in the industry for us. So you almost sort of put your line through 2 or 3 or 4 days worth of work and you're playing a lot of catch-up. So, not to say we don't, but we're fairly selective with what we look at these days. And as I said, I think with the internet and the amount of people you see now go online and they go to the blogs and they ask questions and they can sort of talk to the industry, There's local pages now on all the social media things where people are talking to each other and using it to their advantage as far as, if they need someone or where can we dump dirt and stuff like that. But they can also ask questions online, and sometimes that's difficult because they get interesting answers on some responses I sometimes see, and it's like yourself, I think when they get advice from other people, that those people are generally, I wouldn't say always orientated to one brand, but their preference might be brand Kobelco, that might be brand whatever, and that's because they've got a history there. But I think it also reflects on your relationship with who you're dealing with. Okay, so you could go to a company that's fantastic what they do, and you and I have got a great relationship, and then you might deal with someone interstate that could be completely different, a different brand, and you sort of don't get that relationship. You don't tend to sort of click with that client, and you're not getting that after sales support. So that's why our job's sort of really important. That when people are looking for a machine, we take it serious. We get all the information we need. We try and get back to that client as quickly as we can, as professionally as we can, to give them the information to pretty much make a decision. So the next time we have a conversation with them, hopefully they're ready to buy, or they can sort of give us feedback, exactly where they're at.
What about so Kobelco being based in Japan? Do you ever get the opportunity to go and see their factory, or do any of the other guys at the company get to go there?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to go across there. COVID obviously pulled the handbrake up on that because we couldn't do international travel. I was fortunate enough just recently to go across with the owner Ken. And Kobelco Australia, it's I think it's sort of done once a year, and it was a long time ago. The story actually goes that I think Ken came up with the concept. He wanted to bring a few of his clients over to the factory to show them the product. To probably cement that understanding of what the principles and the beliefs of how Kobelco build their machines, and I think it just sort of strengthens that relationship when you can go to the factory, to the people, to the country, and sort of see, okay, well, this is where it comes from, and the attention to detail that Kobelco factory has as far as when they build a machine. Their process for building a machine is unbelievable. Like they plan to build a certain amount of machines per day, and they've got that product coming through on that day. They've got any supply chain stuff coming through on that day. So I think it's on-time manufacturing, they call it. So everything's just coming in on time. As that engine's being put in, it's come off a truck this morning. That cross-track frame or that dip ram has been built and welded that day prior. It's then assembled that day. It's all pretty interesting to see, and it's a big-scale environment. So I have been fortunate enough to go across there. Japan's an amazing country as well, so fortunate enough to go and see that. But it from my point of view as well, it really has an impact with me taking a lot more pride selling that machine to my customers, knowing where it comes from and the attention to detail it goes to as well. So yeah.
All right. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to go to Japan myself. Beautiful country, and beautiful people as well. Nice and humble. We probably could take some lessons from them, but they're very nice country.
It is. It's very, and like you said there, I think it is that they're just genuinely nice people, and they actually sticks out in my mind from that walk we went on during the couple of months ago, that they would actually stop and acknowledge the Australian people. So when they do this tour, I'll backtrack a little bit, but so Ken, I think, wanted to take a couple of customers over there and got the go-ahead to do that. And it went so well that Kobelco Australia decided, hey, we should probably do this on a national level. So what they actually do is they then look to take, maybe 30 to 40 people over there, which is a contingency of, probably if they can go there, is each dealer is invited to go, and then they probably select 2 or 3 customers. It's not a big trip. It's fairly selective, and the unfortunate thing is we'd love to take all of our customers over there. It's just really tough logistically to do that. But yeah, from there it's basically administrated by Kobelco Australia. The dealers, as I said, myself and Ken went, so we had 3 with us, so there was only 5 from Melbourne, and most dealers are sort of like that, or some of the smaller ones that might just be the dealer principal and 1 or 2 of their customers. You sort of go for 5 days. It's a pretty quick trip. You do you do some sightseeing as such, and sort of seeing a little bit about the history of Japan in some of the things, which is really, really good. And then you obviously go and take those factory tours as well. And We went to Ground Zero in Hiroshima, which was again a really humbling experience. And when you're sort of standing in a situation of such a historic event and stuff like that, like Japan's such an amazing country, and where they've sort of rebuilt back to and what they do and their manufacturing as far as and one of the things I say to a lot of my clients is when you're talking a Japanese excavator, you're talking about an excavator that's built at the highest standard, and you really see that when you go over there about the way they build the machine, but they've just got a passion about what they do. There's no fuss, there's no complaints, there's no rubbish anywhere. It's all clean. It comes through really, really well, really, really neat. And then you've got people at the back end of the line, making sure that the machine's coming out in showroom condition, and even to the extent if they have a slow up on a line somewhere, through their little plant lines, they've got little areas. If they're a little bit behind because they actually have a number to meet it at like through the day, and they've got a certain amount of time in their bays to work. If they're not up to speed, they'll actually have some people come across and help out and get that stage up to date. So at the end of the day, they deliver what they have to. If they had to deliver 34 excavators, they'll deliver 34 excavators or build 34 excavators. They wouldn't build 15 and just go with that. So
yeah, no, you're right, because I had the opportunity to go to the Toyota car manufacturing plant, and it's the same thing. Japanese, they're so stringent with their deadlines. They talk about lean manufacturing, 5S, all these, keeping everything clean, and they have all these procedures, and everything is set in its way to get the most efficient production line. So I imagine they'd be exactly like that at Kobelco. What about, so coming up towards the end of talking about the Melbourne tractors, what are the future plans that you can share with us? What are they looking to do? Anything? Are they looking to expand maybe in other states?
No, so I think our plans, to be honest, and as I said, we've had growth on growth on growth, which has been really positive for the company. I think the biggest challenge we've seen that probably everyone listening and watching this will be is actually finding staff to continue to help our business grow and support the needs and demands that we've got, whether that be through the sales department or through our admin department and things like that. So probably our biggest focus at the moment is ensuring that we've got a team of people on board and in place that can continue to help us grow. We service, look, we sell a number of machines, last year we sold just under 400 Kobelco new excavators. So that's only one brand in the business that we do. At the moment, we're on track to deliver over 400 this calendar year. Now that's both Brisbane and Melbourne. Now, we then have to service and support those machines in the field. I think with the big build going on here in Melbourne and a few other things that I don't know what's happened through COVID is people have been selective with their work and what they want to do, and we've actually found it a bit tough at times with mechanics, getting more mechanics on board and qualified people to build and grow into our mechanical division. I think we're also seeing maybe a bit of a decline in that industry, as we've probably seen in the last 10 or 15 years for diesel mechanics. It's making it a real challenge for that area of our business to continue to grow as well. So it's a real challenge, which we're always trying to put on apprentices to try and bring them through an apprenticeship. They're very focused on providing that pathway for people that want to do an apprenticeship. And if anyone does reach out to Melbourne Tractors, we're happy to look at that. And then trying to get them to be fully qualified and then obviously the challenge is to hold on to them and keep them within the business. And as I said, we've got some long-serving staff and continue to have some long-serving staff in the business, which helps us grow and generate. But we're not looking at expanding into any more branches. From what I understand, Terang was probably our most recent one that really complements our Ballarat yard to service that western region in Victoria. When you look at density of population and things like that, we're set up in the north at Somerton, we're set up in the southeast, and we're set up out of Ballarat. So sort of geographically, we've sort of got most of the state that we do covered fairly well. You will have the odd challenge in some of those small country or bigger country towns, would I say, where they might have opposition dealers up there, the likes of Bendigo and Shepparton. But you can't set up satellite dealers in every little small town. It's just not logistically possible, but it's then how we service and supply those machines and keep our clients up there happy. But I think Brisbane they're busting at the seams as far as where they are at the moment. They purpose built their facility probably 5 or 6 years ago. and the rate they've been growing at, they've their next move is probably going to a bigger facility. How and when that happens, that's probably the next thing if there was something looking at happening. But that's just natural growth involvement from how they've run that business up there. So, as I said, I think the biggest challenge for us has always been in the last couple of years is just continuing to build our business as far as resources and staff. Hopefully we can sort of continue to do that to help the likes of you guys out there on site to supply the equipment needs, but then, as I said, service them and keep them going as well.
Yeah, okay. I suppose that leads us to the final segment of the episode. So I wanted to just talk a bit more about specific machinery and the model ranges and stuff that you sell.
Yeah, so if we start with Kobelco, I know that's sort of a very prominent brand with us. We sell the Kobelco excavator range here in Melbourne, which starts at our little SK008, sort of 800, 900 kilo machine, all the way up to our SK850, which is just over 80 tonne. We've just sold 2 of them out of Melbourne, which we have been asking for over a number of years, probably the last 3 or 4 years. I know Ken's been really keen to see that machine come into Melbourne, knowing where that sort of range and scope of work has been and the demand within the industry has been there. It's been a machine that's been overseas for the last sort of 10 to 15 years. It's not a new excavator to Kobelco, it's a new excavator to Australia. And it's sort of, for us, it's a smaller mining application, sort of small to large scale quarry application, but also where we sort of serviced our first 2 was into subdivision, where we've got that hard rock in the north and the west. And we've successfully supplied our first 2 into a couple of clients there. And the feedback on those machines are fantastic. If we go down the line, Kobelco, I think one of their strengths over the time I've certainly been with Kobelco is originally they were probably recognised maybe as more of an agricultural product in the sense of maybe the quality of the machine technology and some of those things as far as what they might compare to other brands. But what they've done in the last 10 years is really shaped to where we are today in the industry and here in Australia. So they've been able to redevelop products, redevelop models, bring out newer models with better features and engine specs or whatever it needs to be based on what the market's wanting. From Australia's point of view, we feed them back a lot of stuff to the factory as what we would like. Some of the machines that we get over here in Australia are completely different to what machines they supply locally in Japan or overseas as well. Probably our 3 most recent machines that we've sort of had come through were redevelopments of previous models. So our SK350 and our SK500, our 35 and 50 tonne machines, were reinforced to be upgraded to what they call an XD series machine. So a much stronger build quality machine, for an overseas build, which again was a machine that was sort of supplied to overseas where they were working in quarries and mining applications, that was brought into Australia because we're only finding our grounds not getting softer, it's getting harder, and they've taken off really, really well because we've been able to bring an upgrade to that machine. So the quality of the build of your wearing parts, your high wearing parts, whether it's through your undercarriage, your boom or your arm, your regeneration on your hydraulic system, and what Kobelco's renowned for, and we obviously sell very hard to the industry, is our low fuel consumption, is something that customers have really recognised and obviously been able to build their business on. We've recently introduced a 10 tonner. We went from an 8.5 tonne up to our 135, which is basically a 15 tonne machine. So we've just introduced our 10 tonner, and the launch on that's been fantastic. We've sold a number of machines off there as well, and we brought in a 380 short radius, which since we've launched that, the sales on that have been fantastic because the market's been there for it in the urban environment. When people are working in that tighter access and that road space as well. And I'd certainly say in the next sort of year to 2 that the development on some of our other models will start to go to potentially new models, and there's things there no doubt working in the background as far as some of the lower emissions technology that people are looking at, hybrid based machines, lithium powered machines, all that sort of stuff. The factory investigating that stuff already, but for us it's going to be a long period of time down the track before that really comes into play. But as far as brand goes, I think their strength's been their development and their redevelopment of their product, and really bringing out equipment that our clients have taken to, and actually maybe when they've actually bought one model, by the time they've upgraded that, they've gone into a newer model, and they're getting a genuine upgrade as opposed to just going into the same machine, 2 or 3 times. One of the other advantages I think Kobelco have at the moment is that we're listening to the market. So the market is really in Australia asking for tier 3 engines. They want to try and stay away from that tier 4 engine space if they can. It's not because Kobelco have had issues in that space. It's probably just that people are aware that you've got to carry AdBlue fuel in some circumstances. You've got extra sensors. You've got extra complexity in some of the running stuff of that machine. But we can go to the market with most of our models, not all of them, but most of them now, and offer tier 3 or tier 4. We are seeing our smaller machines come out in tier 4. It's just a DPF, and that's something that's fairly common and accepted as standard around here. But it's probably in that bigger space where, especially as I said, AdBlue, if people can steer away from that, they're preferably looking to do that. Again, some of the high companies that we deal with, they don't want that because they're relying on the people that they're supplying to do the right thing, and it's a costly thing if they don't. So I think that's been a real strength of what Kobelco's done. They've actually brought in models in tier 4 engine and then actually pushed them back out and reintroduced a tier 3, and we've seen the sales in those areas have been complemented because that's what the customers are asking for.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so that's your Kobelco range. What about the ASV and the other ones?
Yeah, so ASV's been a really big product for us, and they've actually redeveloped their line. So the history with ASV is, the origins of the machine are back to that brand ASV, and from about 2011, 2012 to probably 2017, 2018, that product was rebranded as Terex, they just bought a majority share into the business as far as probably an invested interest. And that sort of scaled for about that sort of 7-year period. And then probably around, as I said, 2017, 2018, ASV came back in and bought that share back and became the majority shareholder. And I think part of doing that was the R&D has always been through ASV. So they redesigned and developed a lot of the equipment. We've seen a lot more machines, designed and into the range in the last 3 or 4 years than we probably have seen in the last 10 years. And in the next 12 to 18, possibly 24 months, there's already an earmark of new products coming through ASV. And a lot of that's actually driven now by Yanmar. So Yanmar also have an invested interest back into ASV, and they're providing ASV to build those machines based on how they've designed and built them. But you'll start to see some of that Yanmar influence as far as the engines into those machines, which we think is a fantastic thing because a number of our Kobelco excavators obviously they run a Yanmar engine at the moment. But ASV is very unique, and that's the one thing that, again, we're sort of fortunate. We've got a class-leading product that's so unique to the industry that it doesn't really have much a comparison to other models and other makes when it comes to specific, design principles on the ASV. We've got 2 of the smallest machines available on the market, which is our 25 and 38 horsepower machines. And then we go right up to a 135 horsepower machine, which when you talk hydraulic horsepower is it feeds the most hydraulic horsepower into an attachment and sustains that from a point of view. So again, with the principles of its undercarriage design and its patented drive system, we've got a lot of clients that have come across to ASV and have stuck with it in especially that urban application because their principle is based around a low footprint, and especially when we're working in tight areas and over pipes and over slabs and things like that, you really need that sort of machine. So the biggest challenge, as I said to you earlier, is with ASV is the lead time. They had massive issues in the US with COVID and shutdowns and stuff like that. We're also challenged with their supply chain. And what Australia did, let alone the US, in amongst that time, was smash them with orders. And I sort of heard at one stage that the Australian market had ordered 12 months worth of what would be normal orders, like what they build in a 12-month period. We ordered that in a 4-month period. So that's going to make it really hard for them to basically build and supply them in what were normal lead times. So we're still encountering the issue with not having machines in stock. So when people sort of drive past our dealership, they'll see machines there, but they're machines that could be, some of them could have been on order 2 years ago, and some of them up to 12 months. So that's probably our biggest challenge with them at the moment. We are going to start to see that improve. But yeah, we've sort of been at that ground zero for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And out of all the machinery now, what's the sort of most popular one? Do you have one that's like the biggest sort of seller?
At the moment, if we sort of talk excavators, look, our 135, our 15-ton machine is globally a class leader, and also here in Australia. So I'd probably say that's our flagship model for what better of a word, and then probably recently the 380 XD and that 500 XD have been really popular. The scope of work in that larger scale of machinery now, especially we're seeing in Victoria, is bigger than it's ever been before. So outside that, probably our ASVs, our RT60 is and has been our most popular model for a very, very long time, and it's so popular, in fact, that the US pulled it out of their production line when they revamped a lot of these models about 4 or 5 years ago. They pulled it out of their production line. Didn't even let Australia know, and we've got clients that specifically have their trucks and trailers and equipment set up for that machine. And at 3 ton operating weight, at just under 1600 Y with a 60 horsepower engine, there's nothing like it on the market. And we push back to the US to say, hey, gosh, you can't pull that out of the line, because the next machine's 600 or 700 kilo heavier. It's a lot wider. It's not the same. It changes everything here, and the demand's there. So, my understanding is the Australian market were told from the factory, well, we're going to build X amount per year, and you guys have to take them, and we've been doing that. So it wouldn't have been a concern for us, but that is our number one selling machine in ASV.
All right, interesting. Now, how can listeners find or contact you if they're interested in buying a machine or something?
Most guys can just Google us these days. I think that's how you find everything. That's how my kids find stuff. You can ask Alexa, you can ask Google or whatever it is. But obviously, Melbourne Tractors, as I said to you, we're based out of Somerton, so we're contactable via phone. We're on social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We're probably on a lot of other stuff. I don't run our marketing side of things, but that's actually been something that we've been focusing on quite heavily to publicise our things. I don't know how else you find people, but just Google us and you'll be able to find us. And look, we always enjoy new clients coming in, and coming into our dealership is a big thing for us, especially having gone through what we've gone through. One of the things I say to a lot of clients, especially if they're new clients, is, hey, come in and see us before you do make that decision, or come in and grab a coffee, or come and have a look at what Melbourne Tractors is about if you don't know what we're about. Because there's still people that don't know who we are. It's amazing to think we're such a big company that there are still people who don't know who Melbourne Tractors are, and they probably think, well, why would I go to a tractor place? I need this product. So come and see us, grab a coffee, grab a cold drink, whatever. You come in, you'll see what their business is about. Once you come in and see that, I think when you walk away, you know that you're dealing with a company that's got a lot of experience. It's got hopefully a very good reputation out there that we continue to try and uphold, and it's going to give you the after sales support that you need. It's not a company that's going to fold up its shed overnight and not be there for the long term. It's a business here to help anyone, whether it's a 1 ton excavator. Funnily enough, when I first started, my first machine I sold was a second-hand 1 ton excavator. So I really started from scraping the barrel, but that's where you start, and that's what that client needed. We're able to service that need. So it doesn't matter what you need, whether it's a ripper, or again, my background being attachments, I was able to sort of work through with some clients and supply them attachments to start with, and eventually that machine needed upgrading, and the fact that we went out and dropped off that, or we did this, they came back and gave us that opportunity. So come in and see us. I think you walk away pretty happy with the people that we are, and if you need something down the track, that we're a family-owned business that's going to treat you hopefully fairly uniquely within the industry.
All right. Okay, thank you to Shaun for joining us today. You've provided some really good info on yourself and the company. I'm sure the listeners will be enjoying this. Thank you for being my sponsors to Melbourne Tractors. I'll put all your contact details in the description, but obviously you can go to melbournetractors.com.au, and I think they've got a YouTube page now. They've got their Instagram and Facebook and other socials, so just type in Melbourne Tractors or Brisvegas and you'll find them. Thank you very much, Shaun, for your coming in and having a chat.
Thanks for having me.
Contact me if you've got any feedback or suggestions, and I hope you've enjoyed this session, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening.